My name is Kira. I'm 25 years old, and some mornings I wake up forgetting what year it is, or what I'm supposed to do that day, or, on the worst days, what my own name is. There are moments when I stare at the ceiling, trying to put the puzzle pieces of my life back together, but it's like someone stole half the box. That someone was my sister. She switched my epilepsy medication as some kind of twisted punishment. For what? I still don't know. All I know is that since then, I've never been the same. They say family's supposed to protect you. Mine nearly erased me. Before I dive into this story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below, hit that like button, and if you're new here, subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for yourself when it matters most. Now let me take you back to how this all began. Underscore It started with a tremor. Just a faint flutter in my hand while I was brushing my teeth one morning. Nothing dramatic. I thought maybe I hadn't eaten enough. But it kept happening. Little slips. My hands shaking. My speech feeling slow. Then I started missing things. Where I put my phone, what time my class was, what day it even was. I chalked it up to stress. Finals were brutal, and I just moved back home with my family after losing my part-time job. That meant being around my sister, Leona, 24/7 again. And honestly, that was more exhausting than any class. Leona was always the golden child. Prettier, louder, with this unshakable confidence that made people hang on her every word. Me. I was the quiet one. Diagnosed with epilepsy at 19, medicated, cautious, careful. My life ran on routine, and my meds were the backbone of that. I took them every morning at 8 a.m., no exceptions. But then one morning, I noticed the bottle was different. Same label, same prescription, but the pills? They looked slightly off, duller in color, slightly rounder than usual. I remember holding it up to the window and thinking maybe the pharmacy just changed suppliers. When I asked Leona if she'd noticed anything weird about my meds, she just shrugged. I wouldn't know, Kira. Maybe you're just paranoid again. That word, paranoid, made me flinch. She always used it to shut me down, like any concern I had was just me being oversensitive. I told myself not to overthink it. But things kept getting worse. I'd walk into a room and forget why I was there. I forgot to lock the front door, left the stove on twice. My mom began giving me these concerned glances, the way you'd look at a child who's failing to grow right. But Leona, she just smirked. Like it was all one big joke. One night I woke up on the bathroom floor. I had no memory of how I got there. My lip was split and I was shivering against the cold tile. I must have had a seizure, but there were no signs, no bitten tongue, no muscle soreness, nothing. That scared me more than anything. What kind of seizure leaves you without proof? I crawled back to bed and stared at the ceiling, heart racing. The room felt like it was spinning. I reached over to grab my pill bottle, clutching it in my hands. And for the first time I cried. Not because I was in pain, but because something inside me whispered that I wasn't safe anymore. Not even in my own home. The next morning, I asked Leona if she'd touched my things. Her eyes didn't even flinch. Seriously, Kira? I'm not obsessed with your stupid pills. Get a grip. Then she walked away, humming like everything was fine. But everything wasn't fine. And deep down, I think she knew that better than anyone. That day, I forced myself to write everything down in a notebook. What I ate, what time I took my medication, what I wore, even who I talked to. It felt stupid at first, but it was the only way to keep track of what was slipping through the cracks in my mind. I had no idea that, soon, I wouldn't even remember writing those pages. The memory gaps grew wider. I'd find receipts for things I didn't remember buying. People would mention conversations I supposedly had, laughing at jokes I had no recollection of telling. It felt like someone was living my life in pieces while I watched from the outside. I tried to tell my mom, but she just looked tired. Sweetheart, you've always been a little forgetful. Maybe it's your stress acting up again. Maybe you need your dosage checked. I nodded, but I wanted to scream. Because I wasn't just forgetting. I was fading. Then came the morning I completely blacked out. 1 minute I was in the kitchen, pouring myself cereal. The next, I was waking up in the ER with wires attached to my chest and a nurse asking me if I knew what year it was. I didn't. I couldn't even get my name out. Just silence. I saw my mom standing near the foot of the bed, pale and clutching her purse like it was the only thing holding her together. And then I saw Leona, sitting calmly in the corner, scrolling on her phone like we were waiting for a bus. The doctor explained I'd had a non-convulsive seizure episode, longer than usual, and apparently dangerous. They asked me what medication I was on, and I told them. He frowned. That's not what was in your system, he said slowly. What you had in your bloodstream was closer to a sedative. I blinked at him, the words spinning through my brain like they were bouncing off the walls of an empty room. That can't be right, I whispered. But it was. When we got home, I found the pill bottle already replaced with a new one from the pharmacy. Mom went and got it for you, Leona said casually as she tossed it on my bed. I stared at her. Something in my chest snapped, like a string pulled too tight for too long. I picked up the old bottle from my drawer, the one I'd hidden just in case, and compared the pills. They weren't the same. They never were. That night, I sat at the edge of my bed, my notebook open in my lap, reading through entries I didn't remember writing. 8:15 a.m. Leona handed me my pills today. Said I looked tired. 9 p.m. Took meds. She watched me. Said, don't choke on them this time. Each entry was like a ghost whispering back at me. I realized I wasn't being paranoid. I wasn't crazy. I was being poisoned slowly, methodically, by the one person who used to braid my hair before school and read me bedtime stories. I wanted to confront her, to scream in her face and demand why. But I was scared. Not just of what she'd say, but of how my family would react. Because I already knew, if it came down to her word versus mine, they'd believe her. They always did. So instead, I took out my phone and started recording everything. My meds. My conversations. The trembling in my hands. My crying. My mom telling me to calm down. The way Leona rolled her eyes when I stumbled over my words. I didn't know what I was going to do with all of it yet. But I knew I needed proof. Because whatever was happening to me wasn't an accident. And if I was going to survive it, I needed to remember before I forgot everything. Including who I was. Ask ChatGPT. You said. Continue. A week passed, and I was becoming a stranger to myself. I'd find bruises on my arms I didn't remember getting. The scar on my thigh, I still don't know how it got there. I'd forget entire hours of the day, even when I was journaling and recording everything. My phone was my witness now. Each morning I'd film myself taking the new meds from the pharmacy, just to keep track. But some mornings, the bottle looked half empty even though I had just opened it. I'd started keeping the pills in a locked box under my bed, but someone had a key. I could feel it. Leona started acting like nothing was wrong. She was extra chipper, always humming and wearing these long silk robes, like she lived in some TV drama. Sometimes, she'd knock on my door and offer to make me tea. I never drank it. She stopped asking eventually. But she didn't stop watching me. I'd feel her eyes on me when I walked past. That cool, bored stare, like she was sizing up a painting she was tired of looking at. One night, after everyone had gone to bed, I woke up in a cold sweat. I was shaking, but it wasn't a seizure. I was just afraid. I couldn't explain it. My body knew something even my broken mind couldn't articulate. I crept downstairs with my phone flashlight and opened the kitchen cabinet where we kept the backup prescriptions. It was empty. Totally empty. The folder that used to hold my prescription info? Gone. I turned slowly, and there she was, Leona, leaning against the wall like she'd been waiting for me. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked, voice sweet, syrupy. I froze. "Looking for something," she continued, tilting her head. Her eyes were wide, too wide, like a doll's. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She smiled. "You really should take your meds, Kira. You get so dramatic without them." That word again. It rang in my head like a gong. Dramatic. That's what they always said. My mom. My aunt. Teachers growing up. But it wasn't true. I wasn't dramatic. I was desperate. I backed away slowly and locked myself in my room. I pushed my desk in front of the door, even though I knew how ridiculous it looked. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my journal and read the last 3 entries. My handwriting was getting worse. I could barely make sense of what I'd written 2 days ago. Some pages were blank. One was just scribbled lines. I stayed up all night watching old videos of myself, just 6 months ago, laughing in a cafe, dancing in my room. That girl was gone. And in her place was someone fractured. Someone no one believed. Someone who couldn't even trust her own memory. In the morning, I called my best friend, Maya, the one person who had always believed in me. We hadn't talked in weeks because I kept forgetting to reply to her texts. But when she picked up and heard my voice, she knew. "Kira, are you okay?" I didn't even answer. I just started sobbing. My whole body shook with it. I told her everything. The bottles. The gaps. The ER. Liana. Silence. Then she said, "Kira, I think you need to get out of that house." She was right. But I didn't have the strength to leave. Not yet. Not when I could barely remember my own phone number some days. So I asked her for a favor. "Can you help me get proof?" I whispered. "I need help remembering." She didn't hesitate. "I'm coming over tomorrow. Hide your phone somewhere safe. Don't eat or drink anything she gives you. We're going to figure this out. I promise." For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. But it was short-lived. Because that night, I woke up again on the floor, this time next to my open pillbox. And I didn't remember taking anything. Worse. I didn't remember calling Maya. When I opened my eyes, the light streaming through my window felt harsh, like it was slicing through my skull. I sat up slowly, every movement heavy, like my limbs didn't belong to me. My head was pounding, but it wasn't the usual post-seizure fog. It felt deeper. I looked around the room. My journal was on the floor. My phone wasn't where I left it. Panic crawled into my chest as I staggered to my feet, searching every drawer, under the bed, even inside my pillowcase. Nothing. My phone was gone. The desk I'd used to block the door was moved. No sign of forced entry. Just the quiet hum of a house pretending to be normal. I stumbled down the stairs, dizzy. My mom was making eggs. Liana was scrolling on her phone at the kitchen table. She didn't even look up. "Morning," my mom said, cheerfully. "You must have slept in. I came in to check on you and saw you were knocked out. You looked peaceful." I couldn't even speak. My mouth felt dry, like cotton. I just stared at her. My mom. The woman who used to sing lullabies to me when I had night terrors. She didn't even notice I was shaking. Or maybe she didn't want to. "Where's my phone?" I asked. Liana looked up then, with this fake expression of surprise. "Oh, that. You left it downstairs last night." I put it on the counter. It wasn't there. I stared at her, my pulse thudding in my ears. "No, I had it in my room." She laughed softly. "You sure about that?" My mom frowned. "Kira, honey, are you okay? You're acting off." I wanted to scream. I wanted to yell that I wasn't acting, that something was being done to me, that I was losing myself piece by piece because of what was happening right in this house. But when I opened my mouth, my voice cracked and nothing came out but a broken sob. My mom exchanged a glance with Liana. That was the worst part. They were starting to look at me like I was the problem. Later that day, Maya showed up. She hugged me like I was breakable, and maybe I was. I pulled her into my room and shut the door, locking it quickly. I'd found my phone stuffed behind my mattress, wiped clean. No videos. No call history. My journal pages had been torn out too. She sat on the bed and just listened. I told her everything again, tears pouring out of me like I was made of salt water. Then she pulled out her phone and said, "I'm recording this. Right now. You need to speak, Kira. Say everything again." So I did. Through trembling lips and a raspy throat, I told the truth again, what I remembered of it. I told her about the switched meds, the blackouts, the fear, the manipulation. I told her I was scared to fall asleep. I told her I didn't know who I was anymore. When I was done, she reached out and grabbed my hand. "I believe you. No matter what anyone else says. I believe you." And I clung to that sentence like a lifeline. But the moment she left, Liana came into my room without knocking. She looked calm. Almost amused. "I saw Maya leave," she said, sitting on the edge of my bed like she owned it. "You told her, didn't you?" I didn't answer. She leaned in closer. "You really think anyone's going to believe some sob story from the girl who forgets what day it is?" I stayed silent. "I'm not the villain, Kira. I'm your sister. I'm trying to help you. But if you keep lying to people about me," she tilted her head, that eerie smile curling on her lips, "you might forget more than just your name." Then she stood and walked out, humming again. That night, I sat in the dark, clutching the only thing that felt real, the sound of Maya's voice on that recording whispering, "I believe you." But what if even that memory faded? What if I forgot it all, and started to believe her instead? They told me it would take time to heal. They said the brain is delicate, that trauma and neurological damage don't follow predictable timelines. I remember sitting in the therapist's office, her voice soft but steady as she walked me through what recovery might look like. "You might forget details," she said. "Faces, names, even days. But that doesn't mean you're lost. It just means you're rebuilding." Rebuilding. That word stayed with me. The trial ended 6 months ago. Liana was found guilty, not of attempted murder, because the system couldn't quite accept that intent, but of tampering with a controlled substance and reckless endangerment. She got 18 months. My mother still visits her. She still thinks I exaggerated. She said I shouldn't have made the family look bad. That I should have handled it, privately. Privately. As if being poisoned should be a quiet family matter. I moved out 2 days after the verdict. Packed what little I had left. Some clothes, a few journals, and the tiny ceramic owl Maya gave me during my first hospital stay. I didn't take photos. Most of them I didn't recognize anyway. I got an apartment in a different city, changed my number, and started over with the help of a trauma support group. And Maya. Always Maya. She never left my side. She helped me find a neurologist who believed me. She stayed on nights I was too scared to sleep. She made me feel real again. Some days are still hard. I'll forget the PIN to my debit card. I'll blank on my boss's name or the route home. Once, I left the oven on for 5 hours and came back to smoke alarms screaming. I still journal. Still film myself taking my medication. This time, prescribed, verified, and triple-checked. One morning, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and forgot who I was. I stared at myself, shaking, trying to drag a name out of my mouth. Nothing came. My heart pounded. My lungs forgot how to breathe. Then I looked down at my wrist. A tattoo. Just one word. Kira. Not fancy. Not scripted. Just black ink. Sharp and steady. I got it right after the trial ended. A reminder. Not for the world, for me. That even if I forgot everything else, even if the memories unraveled and left me standing in the dark, I'd still carry that name. Still carry me. Because the truth is, I may forget my past, But I refuse to let go of who I am now. I am the girl who survived what no one believed. The girl who clawed her way back from silence, even when her own family turned their backs. I am the girl who was drugged and gaslit, erased and shamed, but who stood in a courtroom and made the truth louder than the lies. Leona didn't win. She took months from me. She stole pieces I may never get back. But she didn't erase me. I am still here. Breathing. Laughing. Learning to trust my own mind again, one fractured memory at a time. And maybe I'll never be the same person I was before. But maybe that's not a tragedy. Maybe it's the beginning of someone stronger. Someone unforgettable.